This video is going to show you a solo Grandmaster Nightfall, getting platinum rank on a Titan. First, just want to see the run and skip the timestamps you have available to you. Other than that, I'm going to show you the weapons and the build I used super quickly. This intro is going to be short because the video is really long. So there'll be more information about everything I'm talking about in the run itself. But quickly, the Grandmaster modifiers are the bog standard ones. The only thing you really need to think about is the burn. Incoming arc and splash damage is increased. Arc noise on, champions, barrier, overload, match game, the usual stuff. So for the Titan, you could go with pretty much anything. I went for Quarter Siegebreaker, bottom tree hammers, with Thermite Grenade, Tower and Barricade. We paired that with the exotic chestplate, Heart of Inmost Light, which I'll talk more about the mechanics of how this chestplate works in the run. Weapons wise, we went Accrued Redemption, Explosive Head Bow, Exotic Auto Rifle, Hardlight, and a Linear Fusion Rifle, Rage Regret. There's loads of variations to this, so for example, if you don't have this, use Biting Winds, Explosive Head. They're literally the same thing. This is actually technically better because it's got a better draw time. So, but Accrued Redemption, Hardlight is amazing for barrier shields. Don't sleep on it. I'm not messing around. This is like one of the best auto rifles in the game. There's no doubt. It has the ability to take Void Arc Solar, and its range is actually better than what it looks like on its stat there. Any linear fusion rifle you want to use, you can use legendary wise. So I went with Rage Regret, but you can go Vorpal Weapon, Threaded Needle, Tarantula Box Breathing, Corsair's Wrath, High Impact Reserves, or you can get like a better Rage Regret and use a Vorpal one. But I wanted to try out this roll that has Ionized Battery, Triple Tap, Rampage with a boss spec in, and a Charge Time Masterwork. I'm just experimenting with this gun, alright? So if you just want to go with a safe Vorpal weapon linear, do so. That's fine. And then armor mods, we are using a Protective Light Elemental Well hybrid build. I've been using it quite often lately. So this is as follows. The helmet is Void, Protective Light. We have Overload Bow and Slotwell Fusion on the gauntlets. Ammo Finders on the helmet. Double arc damage resistance on the Heart of Inmost Light. It's so important. Font of Wisdom. Elemental Charge, Fire and Ice, and Particle Deconstruction. So what does all that mean? It means we can debuff enemies with our linear. We get a Stasis Well when we defeat a champion via Fire and Ice. We then get Elemental Charge, so we get Charge of Light when we pick up that well. We also get Font of Wisdom, which gives a 30-second increase to Intellect, while also receiving Protective Light. All that is so powerful. Okay? That's what we're using on the Titan. So as you spawn in, you will immediately spawn your Sparrow. The quicker you do this, the highest success rate you have of sparrowing past all the enemies. The best advice I can give you is go right through the middle of them, use your Sparrow dodges, and just, as I said, try not to be in the way of the enemies. The smaller your Sparrow, the better it's going to be. Or if you use a Raid Sparrow that de-aggroes enemies, it actually works. Or the Age of Triumph Sparrow, I don't know the name of it, but that also has the perk where you are less likely to be attacked by enemies. It actually does work. Or just use a mini Sparrow like I did, and as I said, you'll have a high success rate with it. As soon as you come into this opening encounter though, you want to throw a grenade at the Acolytes. Your goal here is to kill 3 Acolytes. If you do that, the whole thing becomes a lot easier, because then you can push up past the barrier from a better angle. We're not going to be skipping the barrier. We did skip the overload in the first section, but you don't need it. You don't need to take the overload for platinum. Okay, this is guaranteed every time. In this room, you're going to have a bunch of Thrall, a couple of Fallen. You don't need to focus the Fallen. The Hive will kill the Fallen for you. Your goal is to, as I said, take out the 3 Acolytes and the Thrall. The Thrall aren't a problem. They push you. The Acolytes don't. They'll hide in cover while the barrier pushes you. Right? That's what makes this part hard. So what you want to do to make this part really easy is decoy the champion, right, and then just sort of run past him. Right, it is a little bit dicey, but once you get past to this section, you're good. Now things are a lot easier. There's one Acolyte still alive. If you notice, he was shooting me because he was hiding, as they do. Obviously, we're using Heart of Inmost Light, so with Heart of Inmost Light, we get a with Bomber and 100% discipline build, you get around about a 17-18 grenade cooldown. Now if I use Hellfire Heart, which is an exotic where when you keep your super you get a buff. You get around about a 10 to 12 second grenade. The problem with Hellfire Heart, for me personally, is that you have to rely on keeping your super constantly, right? Now some people would argue, well, that's not a problem because your super doesn't matter. I mean, yes and no. A super is still useful for skipping ads or just taking trash mob ads out. So I would rather take a longer cooldown. Heart of Inmost Light buffs your grenade and all your abilities. You're getting more barricades, things like that. So that's just stronger to me, right? So that's why I never went the Hellfire Heart. Before someone says, you should have just went the Hellfire Heart, no. I prefer this build. That's just what I went. We also have, as I said in the start of the video, Fire and Ice. So you're guaranteed an elemental well off a champ. Combine it with elemental charge. You then get Charge of Light, put the Protective Light on. You get Protective Light off champions. This is super good in GMs where there's tons of knife champs, which there is in this. So this next part, you're going to have one Overload and a Solar Wizard. Obviously, because we've got Hardlight on, we have all burns access to us. You just saw me take that barrier champion from a good distance, no problem at all. There's some autos, the 600 RPMs, even the 450 RPMs, they only just break the shield in time. Hardlight has no problem. Okay, I know its range stat isn't the highest and things, but it's just, I guess it's just the nature of the weapon with the with its perks and things. It's just really good for shields. It's as simple as that. We'll take down the wizard. The wizard's kind of dangerous, so always focus wizards when you can. Kill any other hive. Once you push up halfway up this room for all spawns, so spawn kill them with your nade, with your sunspots. Right, this is where the sunspot build comes in. Anytime you can get some warrior procced, obviously go for that. You'll get that increased regen for those 5 seconds. I could have went Phoenix Cradle, that would have worked well. To be honest, that would have been my next best choice. But I just like the fact of, this is the thing about Heart of Inmost Light. If you use your super, you're still effective behind cover. Hellfire Heart is not effective once you use your super, which there might be a time you need to. Once you're behind cover, your grenade is nowhere near as good. So there's little downsides to Heart of Inmost Light. The only downside is it's just not as quick grenade cooldown as Hellfire. 5 seconds doesn't matter in a GM. This GM's what, over an hour for me? So what's 5 seconds? It's nothing, right? Take out the 2 acolytes surrounding the barrier. This will force the barrier to push the fallen. Just watch. You take the acolyte, watch the barrier. See the barrier? He moves. That's exactly what you want with that barrier. Because then he's out of your hair. You can take him at a later time. Right? He's sort of off you. Now we can play on the bridge area. Which is a good area to play from, to be honest. Not too bad. We use a super here to burn. Try and prioritize wizards. They do sort of dodge your attack though, so it can be hard work. But any little damage to them is really good because that's just going to assist. And then if they're still alive, take them with Hardlight. There is an arc shield that can be annoying, an arc captain. 2 snipers at the back. You can see the snipers can't really hit me from here. They're sniping past my head and things and not hitting me. That's my position. I'm subtle about it, but it's important if you're going to do it like this. I'm just leaving the snipers up at this minute in time. Right, we're going to actually deal with this barrier. As I said, I was wanting to test out this Rage Regret with triple tap. I wish I had triple tap Vorpal. I have farmed Trials. I farmed it last week, which the map was Widow's Court, which was terrible. I can't believe how bad it was. And the Trials matchmaking was terrible. I mean, I've enjoyed the first 2 weekends of Trials this season. And I don't even like PvP. I can't stick it. But I really like the weapons that are available from Trials. And the armor and all that stuff. So, to me, it's worth it to go through the pain to get those weapons. So I still haven't got the triple tap Vorpal, which is the absolute best heavy in the game. This season it is the hands down best heavy in the game, because if it's got 20, you know, you're proccing the triple tap. You're just extending your ammo, because triple taps comes out of the air, right? So for every 3 shots you hit, you get 1 shot bonus. It's not from your reserves. It's not like 4 times the charm. That's like pulled from the reserves. Triple tap pulls ammo from the air. This is where I think they need to add with Whisper of the Worm, which I soloed the GM with Whisper of the Worm the other day. And I think what they want to do with Whisper of the Worm is buff Whispered Breathing damage, just base. Pick a number, I don't know, maybe 10, 20%. Whisper was doing 5k less damage than what a linear was doing. Right? So, and it's an exotic sniper, so it should be doing a bit more. So I would say buff it about 5k. So buff it maybe, I don't know, 10 to 15% Whisper Breathing damage. Right, because that's quite a lot when you start adding the numbers up. You can't just say a 50% damage bonus, right? That's just too much. But reduce the activation of Whisper Breathing, because it takes like a second or two to activate. Maybe have it activate in like half a second, right? Or maybe a second or something. Just reduce its activation time by half, because it's really bad for champs, right? Because this weapon wasn't designed. Champions weren't even in the pipeline when Whisper was a thing. Okay. Obviously, it was the original Black Hammer, so obviously it wouldn't be. But that's what they want to do with it. And I give it triple tap. That was my last thing. Give it triple tap as an extra perk, and that's gonna be extending its ammo. Because I've seen what triple tap's like on heavies, it'd be a good idea to give Whisper it. So now we're on the Defender free waves. Now if you saw the Warlock run, I'm gonna repeat a lot of things that I've said in that run on this, because it's the same Nightfall, right? There's only so much I can tell you in it. However, the commentary will change slightly, because obviously I'm on a Titan, so things change a little bit. I don't know, I'm using different weapons to what I did on a Warlock, so I'm not using Stasis this time. But when you come to this area, you can see all the ads will funnel to you. The Overload will obviously push you, because the Overload's the most aggressive out of the ads, so they always push, first, which is actually to our advantage right now, because we can just strafe shooting with your bow. You really don't even need to use any heavy, but I would recommend you do so. Take advantage of it, because we're using double primary heavy. That gives you more heavy intrinsically than what special primary heavy would, because there's green bricks to account for. I'm not getting any green bricks. And white bricks don't exist anymore because of infinite primary ammo. So you're just going to get more heavy in general. And I've got ammo finder on, right? So that's an added bonus. So you can kind of go ham with your linear. You'll find I have a lot of ammo most of the time in the whole run. Just because, as I said, I went double primary, which you kind of need to. I mean, you don't have to. You could do a Lament run. People say you can't do a Lament run. You could definitely do a Lament run. I've saw it being done. Okay. How you would do a Lament run would just be Lament, a Overload bow, and then a Blinding Grenade Truth Teller. Okay, that would actually be a good run. Just it wouldn't be so good on the tank section. It would just be slow for that. But for everything else, champs, it would melt champs with Lewis Blade. Now we get the shank phase. So there'll be a shank phase at the latter end of each phase. Okay. Just don't let them catch you out, because obviously they can melt. Arc damage is on, and shanks do arc, so they do sort of wreck. Hardlight's really good for taking them out. It's just Hardlight's good in general for just staggering ads. Staggering ads doing good damage because they are GM red bars, right? This bow's really good, very accurate. The aim assist on this bow, Accrued Redemption, is insane on how good it is. Biting Winds is also an excellent bow. So as I said, if you don't have this bow, use the Biting Winds, which, as I said, is going to do the same job. It'll do the exact same job as what this bow did. I know it's a raid bow and what have you. So now we'll switch to arc, because we've got an arc captain. You'll get three dregs, solar dregs, like shotgunners. You've got to be careful of those when you get that phase. There is a track and vandal on the bridge. Just make sure you take the track and vandals before you push up to take the arc captain. That was pretty close. But we can farm our Protective Light back with Shield Break Charge. So that's our last. I think I forgot to mention that. I've got Shield Break Charge on as well to get Protective Light. That comes in clutch for the boss. when you get to the final boss fight. Because there's only 2 champions, well there's 5 technically. 4 technically, sorry, but there's 2 before the boss fight starts and there's 2 on phase, like on the final phase if you like, or just before the final phase. So you can't get a lot of protective lights that way, but you can via shield break charge. Better than taking charge because for this particular strike it is. Right, it just depends. I'm not saying that shield break charge is always better. Sometimes taking charge is better. Sometimes there's other, like blast radius, swift charge. There's a lot of charge light mods that are really good. It just depends on your loadout. You just use what's best suited. So this was the biggest weakness of Hardlight in the whole run, was arc captains. See, I've done a run with Arsenic Bite and Arc both. Now that will one-shot a arc shield. Okay. It gives you more chance to do damage to captains because they don't know what to do. You break their shield straight away, it gives you more time to do some damage, whereas Hardlight, as soon as you start firing it, they teleport. So captains react differently depending on what weapon you're using. Right, with a bow, they just don't tend to react the same. With an auto, it's like they're just hiding, they're teleporting constantly. Right, it's just sort of... That was the weakness in Hardlight, and you'll see it as well when I'm at the boss fight. So we'll utilise the super here because it's solo wizards. I've come out, so try and get both wizards if you can. Just put in as much damage as possible from safety. That's another reason why I went bottom tree Sunbreaker, because of the healing aspect of the class, right? Top tree isn't good. Just because its whole game is based on debuffing enemies via your melee, and you don't want to melee adds in GM, so it's kind of useless. Middle tree, obviously it's exceptional at putting damage out, but its survivability isn't very good. So I wouldn't recommend middle tree either. And it's a sort of... It's a slow super. It's not going to be able to kill a champ on GM like quick enough when you're solo, so it's not good that way. The hammer's good and stuff, but chasing after your hammer in GM isn't like ideal, so that's not really good. I could have went Sentinel. Top tree bubble would have worked well. Core of the Commander would have worked okay. Behemoth Titan, no. Big no. It's rubbish. I've never really liked the Behemoth Titan that much. Only for like certain things. But ever since they sort of nerfed it because of PvP, like we lose out again because PvP, they've nerfed it and it's not like that good in PvE at all. Now we get some arc captains coming. We can use switch to arc. That's the beauty of Hardlight, as I said. It opens up loadouts. It means I can use the stasis weapon, right? Like the linear fusion. Which I don't really understand. Like, I feel as though this is one thing. I know I'm doing the solo run, but I'll quickly mention. Why are there no stasis shields in the game? Right, they've incorporated stasis kinetic. I know they're not kinetic weapons. The stasis weapons in the kinetic slot. And then there's a stasis heavy, and there's exotics and stuff like that. Why is there no stasis shields in strikes? And raids, or whatever. Why is there no stasis shields? I don't understand that. They said there was going to be stasis shields. There technically is a stasis shield, and no one's picked up on this, but the stasis shield is in the Empire hunts. On the story missions, you've got to use a super to take down the stasis shield. Why is there not stasis? I mean, at the very least, Hollowed Lair, right? They give Hollowed Lair enemies stasis. Why weren't they stasis shields? The Ravengers should have been stasis shields. I don't. They've slipped up with that, and no one's complaining about it. But I am, because we've got stasis weapons in the game, and they're not. They're handicapping you a little bit because, well, it'd be better just running Tarantula or Corsair's Wrath or whatever, or Freddy Needle, because they're gonna match an actual burn in the strike, right? But stasis is badly incorporated into this game. I feel like it's took almost a year just to get stasis weapons, when stasis, all this stuff should have come with Beyond Light, in my opinion. It should have been there and then, like, right, here's stasis weapons, here's this, but they were far behind. So we've had all that stuff really super late, and it's just been like, well, they've been a bit slow with that. I know there's been Epidemic on and what have you, but as I said, it's just kind of like, well, right, so we've just got, so we get stasis subclasses, 6 months later we get stasis weapons, and is it going to be another 6 months we'll get stasis shields, so it's going to take 18 months just to fully incorporate one element in the game. So then what? So when we're going to get another subclass later on, that's going to take 2 years to fully incorporate that burn in the game. It should have been all done in one go, and if it wasn't ready to ship, don't ship it. That's what it should have been. We have another server here. We'll clear all the ads in middle. There is an overload there. Obviously, he's not overloaded, but we're going to get some sunspots on him. He teleports back into the sunspot. That's good. We'll get some additional damage. And then we can just continually overload him like so. You can do, as I said, don't be frightened to use your heavy. Definitely use it. I always, generally in runs, stingy with. I don't spend a lot of ammo. You'll notice. I don't use as much ammo as what I probably should have done. But that also demonstrates how, you know, simple it is to take these champions regardless. Use your nade when possible. Obviously your nade does a lot of damage with Heart of Inmost, like it buffs that grenade. But the aspect of the play with that is pop your barricade when you haven't got a grenade, and then when you throw your grenade you'll get a 10-second empowered buff. When that buff runs out, then do your barricade, not before, because if you do it before you won't get empowered ×2. For whatever reason it doesn't work like that, right? So say for example you throw your grenade but then you get a melee kill afterwards, you'll get an empowered ×2. Or say you throw your grenade then use your super, you'll get an empowered ×2. Just your barricade is only counting for ×1, not ×2. I'm not sure why, it's never been explained. Now we can push up because the ads are sort of fighting each other, you'll see. Obviously remember that there was an anti-barrier champion there that spawned. We didn't deal with that barrier. What the barrier will do is, because I know he's a champion but he's hive in nature, he's just going to fight the fallen. So take down the arc shields, like 100% take those. There'll be a sniper to the left, so just be careful of those. Use your weapons, whatever you want to use, bow, hardlight. Hardlight, as I said, it's putting out decent damage for this. Learn to strafe snipers as well, as you saw. Did you see also he sniped me? The double arc resist meant my shields didn't even break. That is why you go double arc resist. I wouldn't recommend going concussive dampener. I mean, you could go arc concussive, but the thing is with that is the concussive dampener doesn't provide nowhere near as much as help as double arc resist. Because all the enemies track you, the vandals track you, the captains track you with their arc attacks. It can go around a wall. Now if that happens, at least you've got some defense against it. This is the final barrier, the barrier that we didn't take originally. You can just take him at the very end. It's easier to do it like that. Watch his attacks. The arc will save us. Also, if you didn't know, these hive taken barrier, the hive champions, barrier ones that I just took out, you cannot critical hit them. You can only body shot them, right? That's why their shield is really hard to deal with. So you just imagine, I was just doing body shot damage there with Hardlight, it still melts the shield. That just shows you how good it is for taking the shields down. This mini room here, it's just a bunch of fallen and one overload. Simple enough to deal with. Obviously just strafe, don't try to deal with all the ads at once, because some of them are snipers, so. And certainly don't deal with the overload captain until everything's down as well. And be careful of the nades. You can shoot the nades down, but I just step back. That's a found drug took out. Now we can deal with the overload. We use a nade. Stream a couple of times. So you can see we're empowered. When that runs out, I will, as I say, do my barricade. Corrective light kicks in because we're not strafing good enough. These are the tracking shots I'm talking about. As you can see, they're just curving around. They're curving around walls, which is something, as I said, I don't think they need to sort of adjust that. I think too strong. Now we get our protective light back from the champion. And then we've got this section. Do a nade as soon as you come here. That will do some tick damage to at least some of the ads as they spawn in. The more ads you get right here, like on that right instance, the better. Because the barrier is going to immediately tether. Now I could have used a super, to be honest. That would have been the best play. Because the super damage overrides tether. So even though they're tethered, my super damage will go through, just like what Well of Radiance does. Well, any super does that. Okay. Another way you can do it to disable a tether off a servitor is break their barrier shield. When you break them, they will stop tethering the ad. It gives you that moment to take out the rest of the ads. There's only one Vandal left, so we're fine. We're safe enough as is. So we're just going to prime this servitor down. Get ready for his shield. Take his shield. We'll take this Vandal. Hopefully we can get him before he's tethered. Good. Do that. Get a reload. And now it's just us in the barrier. That was the main goal with that. I wasn't wanting to waste any heavy on this barrier because I wanted as much heavy for the tank and the Briggs as possible. So I was comfortable with just using nades and my auto on this barrier. When you're primarying a barrier champion, they're more likely to teleport behind cover like this. Whereas if you start heavying them, they stagger and they're less likely to teleport. Spit out the first shield, and then we can start with this barrier. I'll use a nade, got a bit of Hardlight. The servitors aren't so bad, they are buffed by splash damage. So because their void blast attack is classed as splash, if it hits you know the floor in front of you, even though if it's not a direct hit, it will still do a good bit of damage to you. We're using our barricade and our nades when possible between stuns. It is a much slower approach doing it this way. I'm not too fussed that I've lost protective light because, as I said, I will get it back with fire and ice. Another thing about this area is, right now there's a lot of Vandals in front of me. Well, they're disengaged, but if I go to finish that champ, I could get double sniped. If I get double sniped and I haven't got protective light, I could be dead. So that's why I didn't go for the finisher kill. That's so important to know, because as I said, you can see Vandals. If you aim down sights, their names will pop up. So even though you can't see them so much, they actually are there to snipe you. So we'll go for our protective light and then we can start working on these Vandals. So you can see they are sniping me here and there, but for the most part they don't. It depends on how close you get. There's a sniper to your left with a bunch of ads. We'll take those. Don't push up in this map until you're ready for it. Once you push up, you get the 2 Briggs and you get the tank, of course. That won't happen until you push up past the building. I'm not doing that on purpose. I'm prepping the room, if you like, to make it easier for the latter phases. As I just want to make this as painless as possible, because it's not that it's hard, this part. It's a patience game. It's how much patience you've got. Devil's Lair's like that. You know, it's not a difficult GM. It's just, well, how much time are you willing to spend to solo it? If you're not willing to sit here for 40-50 minutes, then just do it in a team. Right? Just LFG it. It's not, as I said, you can get easy 20-minute clears for team-wise, and less. So it isn't much of a problem. If you stand up on this ledge here, you will get ads to aggro you. And you'll get a champion, an overload. Now this overload captain can be a pain later on if you don't take him now. The AI of this champ will change when Briggs come up. He will hide under the bridge, he'll attack you, things like that. Whereas if you take him from here, he's docile, right? He won't attack me because he's overloaded. He's what's known as continually overloaded because of the bow with explosive payload. A vorpal bow would work, a frenzy bow would work, but obviously explosive head is the best PvE perk in the game, hands down. And he always has been. He has been since the game launched. That's why we had better devils as the best PvE hand cannon when it first came out. I know there was Midnight Coup, but devils was the original. You had Nameless Midnight, you had all these weapons, and Mananan, they were all explosive. That's why they were so good. It wasn't necessarily the gun itself, it was just because of the perk. So there's at least 4 orange bar snipers, 3 or 4 at the back of the map. I'm going to prep those, which you can do that by just stand up on the ledge. You will sometimes get naded by dregs and things, but at the bottom of the hill, just make sure you jump out of that. Don't be lazy by just standing in the nade and tanking it, because you could get comboed with a snipe off a random vandal or something. So don't risk it. If you get naded, just jump off platform, jump back on, or shoot it wherever you want. I'm going to slowly work on the vandals. I won't go over the top with it though. You know, just take out what you can see, and then once you're happy enough, I would you know, get the brigs in, because the brigs are a long section of this, because they are really tanky. They have no critical hit spot. They have a critical hit spot when they go into phase 2, and you need to know the AI of brigs. You need to know their attacks. They have 3 attacks. They've got the arc attack, the void blast attack, and the solar attack. And you need to know how all 3 of them work, the range drop off, how hard do they hit, you know, stuff like that. How do the brigs move, when do you need them, when do you not. So there's a lot to go into that. And then obviously there's a tank. The tank isn't too bad to take. I would suggest saving a lot of heavy for the tank though. It just makes it a bit quicker, because you can sort of melt the tank down as long as you've got, as I say, got a lot of heavy. So now we spawn in the skiffs. Just be careful, because the ships spawning, they can hurt you. And then obviously there's the tank and the brig. Come over to the left hand side. The left hand side is safer than the right hand side. Okay. The reason for that is because the tank can't see you. We use a grenade and we use a super on the brig. Extra ads will sort of spawned. There may be a sniper or 2, so just be careful. Even though you're in your super, you could still die. Right, it is possible. We use another grenade because we were empowered. You can just see how much damage I've done at that brig, and the brigs are tanky. I don't even think a thunder crash kills them, so it just shows you how good Heart of Inmost Light done there for damage. The brig starts to push us a little bit, but if that happens, don't go too close, because the brigs can stomp. We break off to his critical hit state. We're just going to spam him with Tarantula with triple tap. That melts him down. So I did say he has 3 attacks. You didn't get a chance for him to properly see him use them because I melted him down. But on the second brig you will. On how I take them down. There's some additional dregs and things. We'll take those. And track and vandals. And just deal with those. I see a good spot for damage on the tank, so we'll do that. But for the most part, we'll be doing damage on the top building. But I'm just gonna break one of the legs, if you like, from here. Once you break around three of his legs, he's around about dead at that point, the tank. So once we've dealt with the vandals, we'll go with the walker. You'll see the damage with particle and triple tap. You can see triple tap is proccing on your left hand side of your screen. We do break a leg, but we can't see his critical hit spot from there. But I just thought it was kind of nice to do a leg break from there. There's a ship that spawns in. The ships are spawned. They correspond with the health of the tank. So once you do so much damage to the tank, you get a ship, and so on and so forth. So you've just got to, you know, bear that in mind. The tank has 3 legs each side, I believe. Or is it 2? But when you break one side, it's harder to see the back legs. But when you stand on this top building, you can see the back side of his legs, which is actually good, which means it's not as difficult. That's why I stand on that top building, you'll see in a minute. But we are now trying to bait over the second brig. Which eventually will... The reason why the brig was out of position is because I was standing all the way to the left. So the brig wants to come all the way to that side. But the brig on the right can't get over to the left because there's a big bridge in the way. Like a broken bridge. But eventually, as I said, the longer you stay on right hand side, eventually the brig will make its way. Be sure that you're out of sight of the tank. And then you can use this blue box, if you like, for cover. And you can just do damage. Anytime the tank moves or dodges, that is the time to do a nade. Be careful of the line of sight to your left, because vandals and things can snipe you. So I was just getting that vandal. He's doing his arc attack, so you can see his arc attack is most common. Then he'll stop. You see the brig is stopping, he does his Void Blast. The Void Blast does a lot of damage to you, right? It almost one-shots, so this is why we're using this box, for safety. The brig is in a real nice spot right now, because he isn't moving, he isn't dodging, which is great. So he's sitting in my nades. Got another Empower buff. I wouldn't recommend Hardlight for these brigs. Not until the crit spot is shown at least. Just use your explosive bow, that'll do more damage. Here we break his critical hit, we'll do some damage. I think I'd commit, or just leave it till the end. This solar attack has a range drop off, okay? But once you stand outside of the range drop off, it isn't a threat. But it can one-shot you. If you stand directly in the solar attack, because what will happen is as soon as the solar attack hits, you'll get like initial damage, and then it sort of explodes, and then you die. So now we'll focus the tank. We have a lot of heavy on the floor, notice. We can get some really good damage in. When the tank's core opens up, you do a higher base precision damage. So try and hit all your crits. And then we'll break one of his back legs. You can nade the tank as well, like so, which will really help with your damage output. It's fine to spam your ammo. I feel as though on the tank section, because you don't really need ammo for champs. I mean, at the very least, I would say you probably want 5 to 6 shots for the barrier. The barrier is where you maybe do need some heavy, but the overload you don't. So I would spam your heavy on the tank. Like, it's not a problem. Your ammo finders will kick in anyways. Once the game says you've got 0 heavy, and there's still a lot of adds alive, so there's more opportunities to get heavy. He nearly got us with his soul attack. Always move for that. Just be careful. And then that's the tank down. Now we can go for any heavy that we have. Skiffs can still spawn, so just be keeping an eye on your audio cues and things like that. Keep an eye above you. Because even though if there's no adds meant to spawn, some skiffs will randomly, well not randomly, it's sort of timed, they will come past and they can kill you if you're at the wrong place at the wrong time. So this overload here is the best place. This is the best place to take this overload. Okay, there's an overload here and there's one at the very back of the map. An additional overload will spawn once you push up so far. I believe there's a way of preventing that. I can't mind how you do it, but I think there's a way. I think you've got to leave brigs up or something, and do it that way. But it really doesn't matter, to be honest, because as I say, the overloads aren't a problem from range. So now we're just trying to bait the overload at the back of the map. We are going to take him from here because bows don't experience range drop off like what a scout does or a hand cannon. So essentially you can take overloads from great distances, which you're going to see in a minute. This overload is out of my view, so we're going to push slightly to the left. Now he's in view. So now we can just slowly, you know, take this overload from distance. We have 9 heavy shots, which is quite healthy for this stage, because we only need to use a little bit on the barrier, and then there'll be some more bricks to pick up, and by that time we'll be on to the final boss. As you can see, it's pretty consistent to take the overload from here. You can nade the champ as well if you want. That wasn't a bad nade, not too bad. The barrier won't tether that overload from what I've experienced. The barrier doesn't go back far enough to tether that one overload. But as I said to you, there's another overload due, and the other overload will spawn once you push up so far on this map. There's some invisible marauders. They hang around under the bridge. Take them out, because they will push you when you least expect. And their one melee shot can get you red bar because it's classed as arc. There's a skiff spawning in. If you saw that, I was under the bridge ready for that. And now we're fine to push up. So the name of the game with this now is to get the barrier. The barrier will eventually come towards you on the left hand side. You just need to bait that barrier over that side, which you will by just hanging around, just, you know, firing your weapons and things. The barrier will come over. Now this range, I mean, I don't know what range that would be. It's probably about 25 meters, 20 meters. You'll see Hardlight break. My time was off here with this barrier, sorry. But you see the range here. So that's melting that shield from there. Okay. Most auto rifles can't do that. Okay, so that was really good. The idea with this barrier is to don't mess around with primaries. You need to really melt him down because the range is just too far. The longer you take, the higher the chance the barrier will shield behind cover. I would say it's about 25 meters, nearly 30 meters. So that's not bad at all going. Okay, so that's the barrier taken. Now there's just some adds. What we want to do is spawn in the overload, because we do want platinum. And you're going to see me do that right now. There's some adds in middle. Those can be a pain because they need you. The adds at the very back won't. There's like an arc captain and things like that. They won't. But the ones in middle will. So here we go. Champion has appeared, which is ideal. So we push to the red box for that. Then I would advise you retreat. On the left hand side, still don't be fighting from the right. Always from the left. And ideally you want the overload to push. He will eventually. Once you get a stun, you can just back off. The further away you are, the better this is. The closer you are to the overload, the more likely he is to teleport. As long as you're good timing with your grenades and your bow shots, then as I said, they're very easy. If you've got more heavy on the floor, then use it on the overload, that's fine, you can do that. Notice we've got a super. I've been saving that on purpose. So we don't have protective light, but we're going to get it from this champ. So what we're going to do is kill the champ with fire and ice. So he's going to drop 2 wells. We're going to push to the red box. We're going to go for the wells to get protective light, because we're going to need it. Pop a super behind the pillar and then skip. You don't need any of these adds for platinum rank. Okay, you just need to obviously get the champs I've mentioned, and then you can use the super to skip. So that was useful. Protective light kicked in, as you can see to the left hand side. but it was enough to sort of skip comfortably. So now we're on with the boss fight and the 3 overloads beforehand. With these 3 overloads pre-boss fight, you just want to make the same approach that I've been doing for the whole thing. Is just strafe shooting them with a bow. We'll lead with a grenade to try and take out all our acolytes. Our goal right now isn't so much the overloads, it's more, I mean, if you can kill all the dregs, that's probably the best, but see, the overloads will sort of, they're more likely to move where the dregs are. And the dregs can do a lot of damage to you with their nades, their tracking shots. Well, actually that's the champions. But the dregs just get in the way, and it just sort of, you know, so try and get as many dregs as you can, and then ideally what you're wanting for is an overload to teleport to your left, okay, as best as possible. And then by that time, just use your grenade when possible. Anytime your empower buff runs out between stuns, you can do a barricade like so. Just keep that going so you get another nade. Again, I'm doing the same strat as I done earlier. I'm not using any heavy until we get some. Until I get some on the floor. The more heavy I got for later on in the fight, the better. Simple as that. So we're just taking these champs out with bow alone. You can see these champs are absolutely melting with their tracking shots. Even though I'm around the corner, they're hitting me. So just be careful of that. When it's down to 1 overload, it's not as bad. Okay. We're going to re-up on Protective Light while he's stunned. However, the dreg chases and consumes our Protective Lights. That was kind of unfortunate. But at the very least, we get Font of Wisdom going for 30 seconds, which is decent. If the overload is right on the edge of this platform here, it's not an ideal position, because the overload can fall off map. What will happen is if the overload falls off map when he's still alive, if you don't immediately kill him, he will teleport and regen, which is unfortunate. So that's exactly what's going to happen right now. You'll see it. Luckily for me, he was finishable. So right there, he falls off. He's finishable, so we go for finish kill rather than having to waste all that time killing the champ again. We re-up on Protective Light because of the Stasis mod, for the Fire and Ice mod, sorry, and then we can start with phase 1. Don't be too concerned with doing damage straight away and all that stuff. Your main focus is adds. At the very start of the fight though, a captain will push you. He got us, but we broke his shield, so we've got Protective Light back, so that's fine. So at least you know you're not one-shot off a melee. It doesn't one-shot you outright, but it does break your shield. What it is with these arc captains, what you need to understand is, they're more confident when there's more of them. They're like wolves, right? So if there's 3 of them, 2 of them will stick back, 1 of them will push you. But when there's only one arc captain, they will just sit back. The same is true for overloads, okay? Like overload captains, they're the same thing. So always be wary of that. When there's a lot of enemies like that, they're just going to push. 1 will push, 2 will stay. It's built into how they work. Understanding how enemies exactly work to in-depth detail, like, is a benefit to you. On team play, it doesn't matter. Okay, you're not even playing the same game. Okay, I'll be honest with you. You don't need to know as much information. Like, I'm really going into real detail. It's like, well, it's a little bit nerdy, yeah, it is. But if you really want to solo it, then you need to know all these little details. Okay, it helps you to know these details. It prevents wipes. It prevents a lot of things. So this is where I do all my damage to the boss down below. Reason for that is there's less enemy fire at you, so you can get a lot more damage in, as you saw. So when you get him to just below about 25% damage, he will then spawn in the 4 void servitors. You'll get 8 of these in total. This is where void is so important. But obviously we have Hardlight, so we can just use Hardlight to our advantage, use Protective Light to our advantage. If we lose Protective Light, which you will do, it's going to happen, it's a GM, we can just break a shield and get Protective Light back. The important thing to know is base charge with light, the mod itself, gives you ×2. So there's charge light times 1, charge light times 2. If you have 2 stacks with charge of light, protective light is a little bit better because it lasts longer. Or that's how it used to work, right? If you have ×1, it's still going to proc, but it won't last as long. I believe that's how it works still. That's how it did work at least. We'll use a super here for add clear. That's mainly what you're using your super for. That's why we're on hammers, right? We're not really on hammers for boss damage or champion killing, things like that. A Thunder Crash is decent for this solo GM. That's one class I forgot to mention. It is decent, but again, it's not the best, because if you Thunder Crash the boss, you may die, okay? The boss may kill you after you've Thunder Crashed him. Say if it's on phase 1 or 2. On phase 3, if the boss dies to your Thunder Crash, that's fine. But the reason being is because the boss will enrage. There's an attack that the boss does that you'll never see on my run because I'll never get close to him. He'll essentially enrage to avoid enrage, and it one-shot outright. If you're in your super or not, it will one-shot you. So melee supers like that, I mean, Thunder Crash is an exception. It is good. It's good on champs and things like that, but for the most part, it's not the best. That's why I went with Sunbreaker, because it's a range super. It puts out decent damage. It gives you health regen on top. The grenade is exceptional. Obviously with Heart of Inmost Light, it's exceptional. You get health regen. You know, so it's good for grenades. Add clear. So it is really one of the best choices, I think, for the Titan. I have explained this on the previous run, but essentially on each phase, so there's 3 main phases, there's 2 independent spawns. There's your general spawns that are linked to the boss's HP. You'll get Fallen Captains, Track and Vandals, Shotgun and Dregs, Standard Dregs, all those enemy types. But you'll also get Shanks. They are independent. They will just spawn on a timer. Okay? So it's actually infinite adds at this boss fight, but it's Shanks. Shanks are easy to take care of, okay? And they drop you ammo, which is why you don't really struggle for heavy and things like that. So it's actually not a bad thing that there is infinite adds. You just need to know your time of windows. That's very important on the final phase when you're taking Overlook Captains. Whenever you need to go out there, say you need to go for ammo, well just take a note in your mind. When was the last time you dealt with Shanks? Okay, so it was like 30 seconds ago. Okay, I have time to go and get some ammo. That's good. Just be careful because there's exploded Shanks as well in that Shank phase. We'll take the final servitor, which what I like to do with servitors when they spawn in is take out all 3 first, like the middle one and the right side one, and I'll leave the left one alive. The furthest left one cannot hit you, okay? But the 3 others can, and splash damage. So if all 3 servitors hit you, that's a lot of damage that you're taking. So just little things like that helps out, knowing information like that. As the phase starts, I'll do a little bit of damage, but not too much. You can see the Track and Vandals from above are hitting me. So it is good going down there doing damage, but at the same time, you really need add clear to be on point. So whenever there's a new fresh phase like that, certainly deal with the Track and Vandals. I would just advise taking out everything you can. So here's another perk to Hardlight. Now I'd used Hardlight on a Master this season, before GMs came out, okay? Before GMs came out. I used Hardlight then as well, because it was Hot Knife on Shanks. But someone had said, why are you shooting the adds with Hardlight? Just shoot the ground and that does more damage. Well, that's not like how you use the Hardlight, okay? Because you may want to do that, that's fine, but you need to be a master with Hardlight on the exact angle on when the Hardlight bounces and hits the ad. By the time you've worked that out on an ad in GM, you die. Okay, so the best port of call is to just shoot the ad with Hardlight. The only time when you really get benefit from the Hardlight ricochet rounds perk is round corners. So that hallway to my left is the perfect example. You'll see I'll shoot round that to that hallway, and the shots will bounce and ricochet in the hallway to kill the ads. That's where it's benefit. Okay, but when you just fight ads normally, just shoot them with Hardlight. Hardlight will stagger them anyways. The biggest thing is that you're hitting ads and they don't hit you. That is the biggest thing. On phase 2, the boss has different teleport locations as opposed to phase 3. I don't think people know this, but on phase 2, this is phase 2 right here, he spawns in front of your window, he spawns on the opposite side of the map and at the back of the map. Whereas on phase 3 and 1, he only teleports in the air at the top. That's important to know that, because if you're standing at the window, he can actually kill you there. If you don't expect him to teleport in front of you, he can actually just kill you. So just be careful, the boss is teleporting around. So just be cautious of that. So as you can see, he's just in front of the window there. So it was important that I stayed back. The biggest thing you can do is listen to your audio cues. The server has a cue to tell you when he's teleporting where he is. Okay, you just need to listen to it. I know the music's good in this, but you just need to maybe like turn that down, turn your SF. I say this all the time. Turn your SFX volume up to 10. He teleports in front of me. I use my super. Okay, I may as well. The ads are cleared in middle, so I'll make use of a bit of damage with my super. There's tons of heavy on the floor. We're going to get ready for damage. This is where I just want to pick some heavy up. But I wasn't sure if the boss was going to teleport or not. He teleports there, so I'm fine. I know he's not going to teleport at the window, because that will be a wipe. If I'm going for ammo, he teleports at the window I'm going back to. That's a wipe. So that's why I was waiting there, playing it slow. He teleports to in the air, so we will take damage from here. You can see there's more ads spawning, because obviously they're linked to boss's HP. It's like for every 5-10% you get a wave of ads, which is why when you melt the boss, you get so many ads at once. Right, so it's kind of a good thing and a bad thing that you're doing that. It's a bad thing that you're going to get a lot of ads. If you know how to control the ads though, it's fine. You'll get some ads down below here, so make sure you take those out, because this is where we do our DPS, so we need those taken. If you're going to do some pot shots, I'll call it pot shots like this, then do them, that's fine, but don't overcommit to damage. On the Hunter, when I use the Whisper, I could overcommit because I'm in Viz. That de-aggroes all ads, de-aggroes tracking, a lot of things like that. On a Titan, I don't have that ability. Okay, so on the Titan, you've really got to 1 or 2 shots and then strafe out of his shots, because his double void attack can really do a lot of damage to you. Obviously we've got our 4 servitors again. So the first port of call is the servitors. You will get a lot of stick off enemies on this phase, because there's just a lot more tracking enemies. So all the arc captains, on the first phase we dealt with melee captains. This phase it's all tracking captains. This is what this makes this phase really difficult, because the captains, they will just hide. The captains are more of a pain than the overlords. Okay, at least with the overlords, they will just sit in position for the most part, as long as you get your stuns correct. Whereas with an arc captain, especially with Hardlight, there's not a lot I can do. So it's just a slow phase. It turns out to be slow because of that. Whereas if you have an arc bow, You can get more consistent, as I mentioned this earlier, you can get more consistent damage because you break the shield straight away from one shot. And then you can do some linear to melt them down. But as I said, take down the servitors first, not all of them. That will be a disaster if you do that, because you've got 2 overload captains up. You will get more ads spawning in with the overloads, making the final phase a nightmare, because you do want to get platinum, okay? You don't want to be spending an hour to not get platinum, so you do want to get that. You want to at least get some adept mods, adept loot. You're guaranteed as well, if you get platinum now, they changed it. If you get platinum, you will definitely get an adept weapon. The only problem is Hothead is not up. And I think most people want to farm Hothead. I farmed the Uzume Sniper already, so I believe you can get this week. What I've saw drop, like, I'm super confused with Strike Loot now this season. I don't know what's going on, what we get. But this week I believe it's Uzume and the Plug 1 Fusion. Now I farmed both of those weapons up last season, so I'm good for those. I don't really want any more of those, so I wasn't really too fussed about farming this Devil's Lair this week. Although it's good for sending shards, I guess. But it's Hothead that you want to be farming, obviously, because that's the new adept weapon. So one of the overloads is in a good spot. It's through this window. Now this window, I know it's like super specific what I'm talking about, but you really need to know about it. Sometimes tracking shots can get stuck on the window, like so. Sometimes they go right through the window and hit us. So if you're going to do the window strat, you need to strafe. You're not on a Warlock, you can't do a Hillary. You're not on a Hunter, you can't go invis. So a Titan relies on movement. That's why I always say with the Titan solos on the GMs, if you're soloing GMs on a Titan, you're probably a better player than the guy soloing on a Warlock. I know that sounds a little harsh, but that's true, because the Titan really doesn't have the crutches that the Warlock and the Hunter has. I know that I'm saying that, and I solo on Warlock a lot, GMs. I solo GMs on Hunter a lot. So I'm a bit of a hypocrite that way, and I know that, but I am saying, like, someone's like soloing Corrupted on a Titan. Right, they're at the peak of their game at that point. You know, if you're soloing the hardest GMs on a Titan, then that is the ultimate sort of challenge I see. Because as I say, the Titan just does not have the kits that Warlocks and Hunters have. They have a lot of good things going for them. They're better in your team. Okay, Titans seem to excel better in your team. They're great that way. But for solo, because as I say, you can't heal so much. There's a helmet that got buffed recently, but it's not good enough. I did try it out. It's still not good enough. I think if you match your... It would be good for this with Hardlight, because you could go solo with the exotic helmet. I forget what the name of it is. Basically, you get health on energy weapon kills. That's one of its perks. It is good. It's decent, but it's not like, you know, a Warlock has that on tap with the Stag every couple of seconds. And you don't even, you know, even without the Stag, you have that on tap every 30-40 seconds. So it's just sort of how it is. So these are the arc captains I was going on about. So there's one over there, and there's one in the corridor to my left. There's an overload to finish. You can't take the overload. You cannot push this overload until all the arc captains are dead. It's as simple as that, because the arc captains are going to kill you. While you're trying to focus that captain, the overload, sorry, you're just going to get melted by the arc. They're tracking shots. We've got a shank phase as well, so you need to deal with that. But as I said, you need everything taken out. This arc captain pushes us, which isn't a bad idea. So we break his shield, take him out with the linear. Obviously I've got tons of heavy, so I can be spamming my heavy at this point. The only problem I had with this arc captain, the one on the other side, is he just kept teleporting. After, even if you do a little bit of damage, he'll teleport, and he just won't show himself. A strategy I could have used is I could have used the bow to overload him. I know he's not an overload captain, but that's not the point. Sort of overload him and then break the shield and then use linear, because that will sort of have a similar effect where it does on Overlord captains. They kind of stay static for a second or two. I should have done that, which I didn't. Which, if you didn't know, as I said, Unstoppable, Overload and Barrier works on all enemies. It has unique effects. So Unstoppable Shot, it works on a boss. If you aim down sights with its pulse rifle this season, if you aim down sights on a boss and just use Unstoppable Burst, that will actually stagger the boss for like a second. Overload works on all enemies. Essentially, enemies will do less damage to you when they are overloaded. This is true because it shows you a debuff above their head to show you that that the effect has worked. That's why Overload Bow is so good. That's another reason, because you have the longest range primary in the game. You have like one of the highest burst damage weapons in the game, like single shot damage, because it's a bow, right? And you can strafe shoot with it, and you can continually overload champions. That's why I say people sleep on bows. They think bows are meme weapons or something, but they're not. Like, they are literally the best PvE. I would say scouts are close now because they got buffed, but we haven't seen scouts yet since the new buff for mods. But I believe we're going to get that for Witch Queen, and hand cannons as well. They're probably going to do a hand cannon scout with probably a rocket mod for Witch Queen. They're definitely going to do that. If they've brought back Galahorn, they're definitely going to do Unstoppable Rocket Launcher. They won't do a Barrier. They just won't do a Barrier because it wouldn't make sense. Rocket Barrier. Because is it going to one-shot the shield? If it doesn't, you're kind of screwed because a rocket only has one. Okay? Unless you got Clown Cartridge or True, it's just a one rocket. So they won't do a Barrier rocket, but they'll definitely do either Overload or Unstoppable. It'll probably be Unstoppable Rocket, just like they've done Unstoppable Shotgun, Unstoppable GL, etc. This is the final Overload. The final Servitor, sorry. We're going to get him weak and then go for ammo. Always know between phases, this is your chance for ammo. There is a shank phase, because we had just took out an Overload, which takes a bit of time. So by the time he's dead, it's very important as well you don't get a shank phase while you're dealing with an Overload, like on that second one. That is pretty much disastrous. If that happens to you, you're going to have to leave the Overload and take the shanks, and then go again once the shanks are taken out. Use your nade, use what you've got. Don't waste a super on this phase though, definitely not. We're max on heavy now. There's still plenty of heavy on the floor. You can see all the ammo finder bricks. If you don't know the difference between ammo finder and standard, ammo finders glow more, as a standard brick's just more purple, whereas the ammo finders glow. There's like 3 or 4 there at least. So now we'll come down below. This is our moment to do a little bit of damage, because as the shield breaks, the skiff is coming in over the other side. So you've got like 4 or 5 seconds to do a bit of damage, and then you've got to retreat, like so. Good time to use a super on this phase because there's loads of ads. Okay, a lot of orange bars, a lot of orange bar dregs, vandals, tracking shots. No champs. The champs are done now. That's it. We've got no more champions. Another thing about this phase is this: you can't farm so much charge with lights. So there's no servitors now. You've took all the servitors, and there's not many shields. These are captains though. So that is one enemy type you can actually farm, because you may lose your charge of light. When you commit to damage, just don't overcommit. I know I've got triple tap on this linear, but I really don't have the time to be doing 3 shots on him like each time. It just depends on whether he's hitting me or not. So I couldn't make the best of triple tap on this linear for this phase. Just waiting for the boss to reveal his crit. Get out 3. We've got good damage in. I did sort of overcommit, but protective light kicks in. None of the Ags are really aggroed on me, so that's because we took them out with the super mainly. But as you can see, you can do a lot of damage from down below with the linear. Again, he gets us with that double void blast attack, wait for health regen, and we'll finish him off with the linear. Anyways, that was the solo GM for the Titan. I hope you enjoy. Thank you.